I am live. I am alive. 6 feet up, all systems go. Pretty sure. Nothing is malfunctioning. Anyway, this is my day. I decided that I would start doing these on Sundays. Okay, just going to share with you the stuff that I'm learning. So I started reading today because I'm always things that are relative to not. Most people say I'm a trauma healer. I don't heal trauma. I can only heal my own. I can show you how to heal yours. And I can give you tools that will help you heal. What happens after you heal? That's the fun part. That's the part that turns me on because that can be a very, very rich life. Or to use the word that Peter Levine does, profound. And I don't think he uses that term lightly because profound indeed it is. It's beautiful. It's I am having a episodic memory. Anyway, it can be beautiful, it can be awesome. And so in my effort to always improve my healing program as well as my own life and the experience of my clients, and eventually then those clients who choose to become guides of my resilience toolbox program, who will then own their own businesses, I want them to be even better at what they do. Anyway, I started reading Eric Erickson's Identity and the Life Cycle because he's got these different phases of life that he identified, these developmental stages. And I'm curious because I read about different stages in Peter or Lawrence Heller's book, Healing Developmental Trauma, about these different stages of um, development, connection to the body. I'm going to call that somatic connection. And then there's attunement, which I think precedes attachment. And then there is trust. And then there's self regulation. And then the last one is, I believe, love and sex. And so that's infancy through teen years. And Erickson's go beyond that. In fact, I think his last book was about old age. And so I'm curious to see where some of these overlaps are. And part of what drives me, and people who have talked to me recently have heard me say, especially when they're talking to me about tremoring and growth and all kinds of things, I will oftentimes say, well, this is my insight into this, or this is my perspective at the time, or this is my speculation. And one of them that I share regularly is that to the extent that we don't fight or flee, actually, and we don't complete those stress cycles, it will require more tremoring on our part to complete and discharge that stress cycle from the body. Okay, that's one of my insights. I've got a few others. So I'm reading there's 2 introductions to this version of Identity and the Life Cycle by Eric Erickson. And this paragraph, insight, of course, is an integral part of a clinician's work. When spelled out, however, it must include, rather than pass by, whatever verifiable knowledge, consistent theory, and therapeutic methods are at the clinician's disposal. All right? And I'm good with that. I say that a little bit differently. What I say is that I try to connect the dots because I see these different dots in these different fields that can somehow and sometimes in some ways connect together. For example, stuff out of Plutchik's The Emotions and Peter Levine's Brain or Trauma and Memory, written probably close to half a century apart from each other. And there's So my experience with sharing my insights and my speculations and this, because if you have verifiable knowledge, that's one thing. And so that's why I qualify my insight. This is just my speculation. This is just a thought I've had. That's how I qualify them. I can't say I have any verifiable knowledge and or it's consistent theory. I can apply that to some degree. Um, Sometimes it's just a little bit of common sense and therapeutic method. Well, okay, I can take some of those things, and that seems to be a gift I have. I can read a variety of things and see these threads that connect them together to make this weaving together. So this is some of the stuff I'm looking to, and that, of course, then brings me back to I'm Becoming a Person by Carl Rogers, these developmental stages, and how I apply healing to those stages. And what gets me excited about that is not so, I mean, I'm always fascinated to watch people tremor. And where this, it's interesting to, I mean, I've been listening to um, recording of Dr. Brusell, and he talks about how we have these responses to a threatening situation, and it's muscular. And it really, and I've talked about this, the stress response could really be appropriately called the threat response. Something happens, like say, if there was something that, or the, I have right out here, probably maybe here. If I went straight out about 40 feet, there's a transformer. Yeah, there's a street light right there. So okay. Anyway, on that pole is the transformer. If that transformer ever decides to go kaboom in the night, my reaction will be automatically, or I should say autonomically, cover up. And that's the work of the psoas muscle. And so in Dr. Berselli's work, when he realized that this is an autonomic wiring in our brain, and what that does, and Thomas Hanna in his book Somatics times some of this. And so elbows are coming in, the neck does this, these get tight real fast. And interestingly enough, you know where this manifests? As a knot right behind your spine. I've been dealing with that lately. And I realize it's because I chew primarily on this side because I have 3 teeth on this side that are kind of, well, 2 that are missing. I've been missing for years. And so that third one back there, I've been protecting it until I have all 3 of them replaced with false ones, I guess. They call them, I don't know what they call them, but they drill the post in and it's so many months involved, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, okay, well, not cheap, but I want to do it because I've realized that what I've been doing by shifting my eating over to here is that this side gets tight and then it transfers in there. And I didn't catch that at first. And so I'd get the tennis ball out and I'd just find that knot and I'd just lay down on it, wiggle this around until she'd go pop. And I was like, oh, God, it feels so good. And I thought for sure it was something I was doing with my kettlebells or something else. And sure enough, one day, even before I started to eat, bam, I could feel the tension go from here all the way down to that knot in my back. So what? So anyway, these are the kinds of things that I like to explore. And so in this exploration of my own life, I continue to find these things that take me beyond just the healing process into growing. Because that's where the magic is. I mean, okay, Peter Levine used the word profound. And of course, the very first phrase of that sentence is trauma is curable and can often lead to a profound life. Whoa. I mean, that's a statement. And so I'm still, because I like some of these thoughts, I like to see how what I like to see is how do I help a person get unshackled from their trauma and become a person? A person who loves, a person who has clear thinking, a person who has a what's the word I want to use here? Transformative, transmutational spirituality, a connected spirituality, a healing, a healthy soma. And part of that is anyway, well, so that's these are some of the things that I've been digging into of late, and part of that is this identity and the life cycle. How do because this is something I hear quite a bit is I spent so much of my life in trauma, I don't know who I am. I had that same question. I had that same feeling. Who the hell am I? Is there really, and of course, he introduced the Buddhist concepts. Is there really an I? Is that I really a problem or a blah? Anyway, so forth and so on. But it's part of being on that path, and maybe that's the spiritual path. But I'm okay with that. It takes a bit of security to get there. You get security when you heal and you have capacity and resilience. That's what I show people. Anyway, one of the things that I'm comfortable saying, well, you know what? I don't know that I can necessarily answer that. And I certainly don't want to answer that for somebody else. I want to bring them to the place where they can sense from within the answers to those questions because that's where the answer is. I continue to look around. I mean, if somebody says, well, what do you believe? I said, right now, I tend to lean towards being a Gaian, which means that you see that green tree out there? That's a maple tree. And over here in this corner is a madrona. Across the street behind all those maples are some nice Douglas firs. And they're above my mailbox. So every time I go out and get the mail, I get to just stand there and breathe their fragrance. I love it. But anyway, when I am breathing that fragrance, I am breathing in chemicals that tree is releasing apart from the oxygen that tree is releasing and the maple tree and the madrona and the Doug firs down here and whatever my neighbor's got in his yard, which does include a couple of apple trees. I'm breathing all of that in and I'm exhaling and they're taking up my exhale. Okay, then. Now, you know what that leaf or that tree behind me does? If we were to sit here and fast forward this for 4 or 5 months, you would watch those leaves all change colors. Most of them would fall off. Then the new blossoms would come out, blah, blah, blah. And it'll do the same cycle year, right? Okay. Well, had I been sitting in this chair for that long, this would be now the 69th time. This would be going through this whole process. Cool. That's the cycle of life. That's the circle of life. Humans have their own circle. It's a little bit, I mean, that tree will outlive me in the sense that it will do this time and time and time and time and time and time again. And all things being equal, it will still be standing here. How long from now? But I say I lean towards that because I am open to the fact that I don't know everything. Humans don't know everything. They certainly don't know everything about God, if there is such a being. They certainly don't even know everything about this universe. Even now, they're starting to say, well, maybe the Big Bang was just part of a cycle because the universe condenses and then it goes over billions of years, maybe even more than billions. I mean, they're talking now that we may perhaps in our life see it's one of the belts of Betelgeuse, I believe, is they are saying now we might be lucky enough to see this thing turn into a whatever it turns into, a supernova, white dwarf, whatever. It does what stars do. The reality is that star is so far away that it already happened a long time ago. We're just learning all this now. There's a lot of things that go on in the human brain and the human body that we have no idea about. That's how little we really know. We haven't identified all the species on the earth yet. That's how little we really know. And we know a lot. But we spend a lot of our time learning stuff that's really irrelevant. Some of it's cute, but a lot of it's just a waste of damn time. So, in all of this realm, I'm comfortable with not knowing. That's a beautiful position to be in. I personally like to be vulnerable. It's the way I am. As as many muscles as I have and as good a shape as I'm in and my weightlifting and my working out and my training, okay, I'm still vulnerable. That's the way I am, and I like it. And so these are the things that I'm digging into of late, and that is what it means right now to be a person. What are these stages of, because interestingly enough, and I like this perspective of Erickson's, and that is that every developmental stage has a challenge. And if we don't answer those challenges, then that stage remains unfulfilled. So the question I have then is, what does that mean about the childhood emotional neglect that I experienced? Now, I know it from Heller's point of view, in that that's what they call developmental trauma. It interrupted my ability to somatically connect with myself. And if that doesn't happen, then there's little chance that there's any attunement and secure attachment with a caregiver. And that leads to, by the time it gets to anything relative to trust, that's gone, because I'm still looking for this early stuff to happen. And then I go into self regulation. What is that? And then love and sex. Pwah, I'm sorry. And the hippies, what do? Free love. Guess what that led to? So there are some real issues around, but I'm looking at that now from these developmental stages of that. I'm looking forward to reading Erickson's different stages to partly see where my life has changed because of my healing and fulfilled those stages. And what does that mean in terms of being able to help clients identify these? So, and whether or not I want to incorporate this somewhere into my training and the training of the, because I will be, I guess I'll say it now, franchising, which really is just a proprietary way of doing things. However, I now know, and I've trademarked some stuff, and I've already got the program, the Raise Your Business Toolbox program, and basically training people how to do that is the only thing left to do, really. And so that requires a manual. My entire operation requires a manual, and that's what I'm working on. But then I have to, if I'm going to make an improvement on that, I have to put that into changes in the model so that those that I'm teaching, so that and the point that with that is that is done with the idea in mind that it allows every client to have the best experience possible of healing their trauma. Because even my year-long program will not heal your trauma. Didn't heal mine. What it did do is give me a foundation from which I could build by myself. And really, there is no such thing as independence anyway. What am I doing? I'm reading the words of Erik Erikson. I'm reading the words of Carl Rogers. I'm reading the words of Lawrence Heller. I'm reading the words of Stephen Porges and Peter Levine and Robert Plutchik. I mean, I'm sorry, by myself. Independence is one of the biggest, I'm almost going to say, I'll say lie. That may not necessarily be true, but there is no such thing. There just isn't. There's no such thing as a self-made billionaire or a millionaire. There isn't. It's all interdependent. Without somebody else's help? Yeah, nah. You're not getting there. It ain't happening. Because A, not my words. B, I didn't make this book. I didn't print the words on the page, stamp the page, didn't make the ink. I didn't make the machine that makes all these funny squiggly lines. I didn't make the paper or this paper. I did not make the road that book showed up on. I didn't make the truck it showed up in. I did not make the envelope that this book was in that ended up in the mailbox that I did not make. Now, I could make a mailbox. I'm very capable of that, but that didn't happen. I didn't make the Kindle that I have a lot of other books on. I didn't even make my own coffee cup. That'd be an interesting little class, wouldn't it? To make a wooden cup I could drink my coffee out of. Anyway, these are some of the things I'm looking into. I hope you have a great Sunday. The reason I'm doing this on Sunday is because this to me is a day of rest. This to me is a day where I get to just take all this kind of stuff and just allow it to percolate. So the question is, what's percolating in you? And are you taking a day to let that percolation happen? Now, if you're a single mom, I hear you. I hear you. You don't have a day. And I know that. So my wish for you is that you get one. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I want that for you. So that you have a day in which you can percolate. Put your feet up. If you want to put your feet up and watch soap operas and eat bonbons, well, I don't even think they make them anymore, or, munch on cook. I don't care what you want to do. I want you to rest and allow the things of life to percolate, because eventually you'll get tired of just sitting there watching crap on TV. Life will start to make demands. So, and one of the other things that where this turns into, how it goes from healing to growth, or the outcome of that is, take, for example, eating. I watch some of the young kids at my day job, and they can pound down shit that, excuse me, I cannot do that. Now, on my birthday, I will have lasagna, and then I'll have a piece of tiramisu. By the time I'm done with the lasagna, I will be pretty full. So I'll have to eat the tiramisu immediately, because if I don't and I wait, then I'm going to go, whoop, too full. Don't want to put any more in on that. And if that first piece of tiramisu, which will be good, and I'm almost thinking it used to be that I couldn't hear my own somatic signals, so I would have more than one piece. That's a problem. These days, for example, I have actually, I think this might have molasses in it, but I have this maple syrup that I use as a sweetener, and I use a quarter teaspoon in this cup, which is 12 ounces. And this maple syrup. Oh, man. Anyway, so one day I thought, you know what? I'm just going to drink some. So I took a hit off the bottle. Oh, wow. Man, oh, man. It was like I'm going to say it's better than some wine I've had. Mainly because it doesn't have that alcoholic anything on it. All it was flavor. Yes, sweetness for sure. But the flavor notes, oh, wow, man. And you know what else I experienced? I experienced the sensation in this voice in my body that said, all right, maybe a little bit more, but then you're done doing this, because this is raw sugar, essentially. really, really well flavored. But what ends up happening is if I pound too much sugar, and I learned this lesson, I get heartburn. So there's this somatic, when I put richness in my mouth, my the vagus nerve is now communicating from my stomach back to my brain saying, this sensation precedes heartburn. Please label this heartburn predecessor. And I did. I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to do that with other things as well. Let's put a label on that because I know how good the mind can be. Didn't I just read something? There it is. And so with the physical sense, learning your own body, because really that's the first reconnection. If you've been traumatized as a child, it's somatic connection, feeling those signals come out of the body to the brain. And so, okay, I can take that one sip and I can just savor. Oh, and I do. I savor that. I can just linger with that for a few minutes and just like, oh, that is, and this came out of a tree. Not a brother of the guy outside. Um, and I, oh man, is that not awesome or what? So, who figured that out? So, but it's not like I can, oh, wow, that's so good. I'm going to, because A, that would probably make my stomach really upset. It's definitely going to give me heartburn. So I don't do that. I don't like heartburn. That overshadows what my tongue experienced. Come on now. Who would do that? So I got the lasagna thing going, and then I have a little bit of tiramisu. And after that, I feel full, but I don't get heartburn. I might feel even a little overfull, but I delighted my tongue. It's my birthday. I'll do what I want. Well, kind of. I will do what I want to do as an integrated human being. I will not necessarily do what my tongue wants to do, because sometimes my tongue has its weird own way of being. But I, it's my party. I'm going to cry if I want to. And I might consider that this year. You know that? I might consider that a good cry. Anyway, on becoming a person, these life stages, identity, what's percolating in you? With that, I bid you adieu until next week.